I'm Mark Rose. I'm the Chairman and Chief Executive of Avison Young. Avison Young is the largest independently owned company in Canada and quite frankly the fastest growing. And I've had the honor to be working in this industry for almost 27 years. I had a job, I had a great opportunity to be what's called a certified public accountant in the US or a chartered accountant in Canada. And so I worked for a firm named Eisner & Lubin that specialized in real estate clients. Well, there's really two answers to that question. The first is when you're in that role and you have an opportunity to look at the books or look at the results of decisions that have been made by very smart real estate investors, developers, and other real estate services companies, you know, it's just a great place to launch. It's a great place to learn. You know, the second part of it is the people that you meet and the opportunity just to sit amongst individuals who have forgotten more than you know. The toughest job, wow. Probably my role, not the job itself, but the role at the time of the merger of Jones Lang Wooten and LaSalle Partners to form Jones Lang LaSalle. Probably the toughest job was the merger integration in North America, where, you know, very good friends went away in that process. Cautious bull. I think there are reasons to be a little skeptical of any positive momentum in the last half of 2011, given everything that's going on globally. But I do believe that the foundations are there for stability and then recovery in 2012. I think many different organizations, there are many occupiers. Quite frankly, there are several real estate services firms, of which we're one, that are actually working on really moving the model from a more kind of siloed service line approach to something that is more holistic around the needs of the clients. There isn't a manufacturer out there who would run their plants at 40%, yet most occupiers run their headquarters and office space with that sort of downtime because people are out of the office. So as we're starting to mature as an industry, both the client and the service providers are spending an awful lot of time making sure that your real estate is just in time, and also making sure that we're moving to the place where efficiency is as important as grand offices. Most of the industry is selling something called an integrated solution, but quite frankly, the integrated solution doesn't exist and actually won't be bought by the buying set, you know, the occupier, for probably somewhere in the, you know, neighborhood of 10 to 15 years. We have gone from a continuum of single service lines to bundled services to integrated services, and ultimately the holy grail is the integrated solution. It just doesn't exist. That's not what the decision maker is actually buying. So what we're trying to do is bring the honesty and the education, not just to the industry, but directly to the decision maker, that what you're really looking for is what is the best in class solution for the problem that they have. And in most cases, all that is a service or a series of bundled services that will fix their problem, their pain point, to the benefit of themselves as the decision maker and ultimately their people and their company. You know, I don't think so, but I do think that there has been change. I can't tell you that everyone is on commissions anymore, but by the same token, you've seen some companies actually move. You know, I was with one that was salary and bonus that, you know, over the last couple of years have moved more towards a variable or a commission structure. I think that as most companies are looking for shareholder returns, particularly the companies who are public and have that necessity to drive growth shareholder returns, I think you're going to see that more variable model, and that would tell you that it's probably not going to move over to a UK style anytime soon. It will continue. It has to continue. You're talking about one of the most fragmented industries of all verticals in the world, and probably the top 4 to 5 largest real estate organizations still are less than 25% market share. So there is a tremendous opportunity to consolidate. The whole issue is not the consolidation itself. It's the solution, the vision, and what's right in terms of pulling people together, merging organizations together, and what is your strategy and why are you ultimately doing it. I don't think that you're overbrokered anywhere. As I said, there's there's tremendous fragmentation all throughout this industry, all throughout the world. I don't think that Toronto is any different than any other major city of the world. Where there is opportunity, opportunity leads to a demand for folks to come into a market, to service that market, and it's like anything else, the survival of the fittest, the biggest and the best will actually push those who aren't meant to be in this industry out. And therefore, I think it's just very healthy for competition. And, you know, ultimately, no, it's not overbrokered. It starts with a few basic tenets. One, obviously, you have to work hard. Number two, you have to listen and not talk. How many times have we seen the service provider walk into the office of a client and want to tell them about themselves, when the true answer to all of this is listening and hearing as to what the needs of the client actually are? And the third thing, and I think it's maybe most important for particularly those who are in brokerage in our industry, understand rejection. This is a high rejection in business. For as many times that you're going to call or work on something, you will most likely not have a great first meeting in terms of, you know, executing on a transaction or executing on you know, the placement of new business. Stay with it. It's a hard business, but when you do it well, you know, it's one of the best out there. Most folks in our industry have a habit of talking about what's actually going on, all of the anecdotal evidence that they're seeing, that they're hearing. This is a place where I think I differ, probably more than anyone else. It's all about metrics. It's all about numbers. Our industry is driven by GDP growth, employment, and consumer confidence. And those three pieces lead to the most important factor, and that's going to be confidence to make a decision. And right now, what is driving all decisions? It's either confidence or lack of confidence. Every time you hear something out of Europe or Greece blowing up or debt ceiling problems in the US, there is a crisis of confidence, and most likely that results in somebody putting their finger on the pause button, and that's usually a board of directors. So I would say what drives has always driven. Do we have growth in economies, which right now it is scattered amongst all of the major countries of the world. But when we have growth again, we will see growth in every one of our product types. Because Canada has been a safe haven, because of economic and financial stability of the country, it really has been a great place for investors to put their money. I do think we have topped out for the short term in terms of pricing. But what that's doing is allowing people who may have wanted assets that they couldn't get their hands on in the past to trade, because there are financial investors who are making that decision to sell their core assets and their top real estate. I do think inflation helps us. I think there will always be a way to see pricing move up. What I'm seeing is pricing may have topped out in the short term. I believe if you are an investor who is a long-term investor, there's an opportunity, again, to accumulate assets that you wouldn't have had your chance to accumulate in the past. Because of the strength of the economy and because of the strength of the financial system, there's no real reason to see pricing depression or any sort of trough pricing in Canada. What you're really seeing right now is pricing that is at the top end of its range, but in a healthy range. There is not a single metric, not GDP, not employment growth, not consumer confidence, not consumer spending. You can't find one key metric that is moving in the right direction. I don't think that that bodes well. With that said, there have always been troughs and there have always been peaks. We've been bouncing along the bottom, so we've been bouncing along the trough. We have had over the last 2 years starts where it looked like we would get to stability. We're certainly seeing more product trade. We're seeing slightly better pricing, but I still think that we have a couple of years, and I'll go as far as to say it's really going to take the 2012 presidential election for things to change in the US and for the real estate industry to really improve from there. Toronto is absolutely a world-class city, and much like we're always hardest on ourselves, but global cities by definition are global cities. You have global investment. You have a diversity of residents. You have, the core of the banking system, which really drives a country. Absolutely, along with every other major city in the world, Toronto's up there in terms of world class, both in our hearts and our minds. Favorite restaurant, probably one in the Hazelton Hotel over on Yorkville. Now you're asking this question to a guy that splits his time between Toronto and Chicago, and you do know that George Ferris created the Ferris wheel in 1893 for the World's Fair. And so, George Ferris put it on the waterfront as part of the Columbian expedition for the 1893 World's Fair. So, it belongs on the waterfront. Vancouver is getting to be a very close second these days, but Paris is a favorite for the Rose family. Easy. I'm one of those people who are as lucky as can be. I did have a mentor, really from the very beginning of my career, a man named James Boise, who was the vice chair of Morgan Guarantee. And I met him as I was working 12 months out of the year on Harry and Leona Helmsley's work, and Jim moved over to become their executive vice president. He was one of the most powerful men in all of finance in the U.S. He's the guy that participated out the loan to save the Hunt brothers in the 70s when they tried to corner the silver market, and that didn't go very well. But he is truly the most impactful person on my life in terms of somebody who was willing to teach, somebody who I call to this day, and he's in his 90s, when I know I'm not doing the right thing and I need somebody to tell me to switch gears, and to have a mentor all the way through. I can just say that I was honored, but quite privileged to have that sort of resource for my entire career. Leadership style. I believe in the partnership. I believe in elevating everybody in terms of what they do best. My management style is to collect great leaders and let the leaders go and run the business. Let individuals who are very creative by their very nature do the things that they are meant to do, and that doesn't mean telling people what to do or putting them in a box or putting them in a silo. So my management style is, I try my best to connect everybody and meet everybody. I try to drive the strategy, but I know this is about a team effort, and everything that we do is really as a partnership. To U.S. businesses, first of all, you have a country that made it through a very dark period in a global downturn because it's conservative by nature, because the banks stayed away from subprime lending, and that conservatism has boded quite well for not just the current situation, but the future for country. There's pride in telling them it's the #1 banking system in the world. And then I would say the piece that this is painful for my American colleagues and friends, but there's a little bit less of an edge to Canadians than there are for folks in the U.S. And it just, for the 3+ years that I've been here, there hasn't been an unhappy breath in terms of working with tremendous individuals. This era, again, you love these 3-hour questions. I think
2-sentence answer.
I think that this particular era is going to be, I think greed was the 80s. I think this one was recklessness. Every single day, I cannot wait to wake up and come into this office. That's about all I can say. I do not, being a newcomer to the country, but I have heard nothing but wonderful, wonderful things.